Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ajaya Prabhupada Jaya, Prabhupada Jaya, Prabhupada Jaya, Gurudeva Jaya, Gurudeva Jaya, Gurudeva Jaya, Gurudeva. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura, Hari Bol. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahams Parivrajakacarya Stotra Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Anant Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jadvaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath Sham Kun Radha Kun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, वृंदावन धाम की जय, मायापुर धाम की जय, जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय, गंगा माई की जय, यमुना माई की जय, तुलसी देवी की जय, समेत भक्त वृंद की जय, निताय गौ प्रेमानंदे, हरि हरि बोल. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. Glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. Glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila Chapter 3 verse number 37. Shukla Rakta Pita Varna Ei Tina Dyuti Satya Treta Kali Kale Dhare Na Shripati. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. White, red, and yellow. These are the three bodily lusters that the Lord, the husband of the goddess of fortune, assumes in the ages of Satya, Treta, and Kali, respectively. Text number 38. Idanim dvapare tinho haila Krishna varna ei sab shastra gama puranira parma. Translation. Now, in the Dwapar Yuga, the Lord had descended in a blackish hue. This is the essence of the statements in the Puranas and other Vedic literatures with reference to the context. Text 39. Dwapare Bhagavan Shyamaha Pitavasani Ayudhaha Srivatsadbhir Ankaischa Lakshanair Upalakshitaha. Dwapare, in the Dwapar Yuga, Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shyamaha, blackish, Pitavasaha, having yellow clothes, Nija, own, Ayudha, having weapons, Srivatsa Adibhihi, such as Srivatsa, Ankaiha, by bodily markings, Cha, and Lakshanaiha, by external characteristics, such as the Kaustuva jewel, Upalakshitaha, characterized. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. In the Dwapar Yuga, the personality of Godhead appears in a blackish hue. He is dressed in yellow, he holds his own weapons, and he is decorated with the Kaustuva jewel and the marks of Srivatsa, This is how his symptoms are described. Purport. This is a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 5, verse 27, spoken by Saint Karbhajana, one of the 9 royal mystics who explained to King Nimi the different features of the Lord in different ages. Om Ajnanatirmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Hare Krishna to everyone. Anasuya, may I humbly request you to unshare the screen, please. Thank you. So, we are continuing with the knowledge about the external reasons for the appearance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And these verses that we read this morning, they are spoken by Garga Muni to Nanda Maharaj. And in these 3 verses, we noticed about Lord Krishna's incarnations. So in Satya Yuga, he appears in Shukla, which is in white color. And we can get the reference of this in 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 5, verse 21. And I was reading the transcription of Srila Prabhupada's lecture that he gave in New York in 1966. And in his lecture, he mentioned that the incarnation in Satya Yuga was Hayagriva. And then the next, which is in Treta Yuga, is Rakta. The color is Rakta, which is red, and refers to Lord Ramachandra when he appeared in Treta Yuga. And the reference is from 11th canto, chapter 5, verse 24. But in Dwapar Yuga, Krishna came in his original form, which is blackish, hue, which is also known as Krishnatam or Shama color. That was in Dwapar Yuga. He came in his original form as Krishna. Now, many times we've heard about his appearance in Kali Yuga, and that's Pita color, which is yellow or golden, and that is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now, Srila Prabhupada mentions in one of his lectures that Krishna, he can change the color of his body in different yugas. It's not that it has to be Shukla in Satya Yuga, no, he can change based on his will, whatever he desires. But in this verse, the last one that we read, we get knowledge about Krishna, about his the color of his outfit. He's dressed in yellow, and he carries weapons. And the distinguishing factor is 2 important things. Now, we have heard from Srila Prabhupada that when the living entities go to the spiritual world, they go in the spiritual body, which looks just like Vishnu. So now how do we figure out who is Krishna and the difference between the other living entities? So these are the 2 symbols, you can say, that one is Kaustuba jewel and the marks of Srivatsa. And what is that mark of Srivatsa? It's the wall of hair curling, and description is given. It's from left to right on the right side of the chest. From left to right on the right side of the chest. That's very interesting to know. So you can see that the Vedic scriptures, they are so precise. They give all the details that are required. Because sometimes, people may question, why this, why that, where is it given? Why do you say Krishna wears yellow? Why do you say it's all the references given in the Vedas? Now, this verse that we read is spoken by Saint Karbhajan, and he's speaking to King Nimi. And he is comparing Krishna's body to a beautiful dark blue flower. And the weapons that are mentioned is the Sudarshan Chakra. So we've also heard about the auspicious symbols on Lord Krishna's lotus feet, like the lotus, the flower, the flag, the auspicious marks, the different weapons also that are there on his feet, those symbols. So Srila Prabhupada mentions that all these are present in all Vishnu Tattva incarnations. Vishnu Tattva incarnations. Now, I was reading Srila Prabhupada's conversation in the garden in Los Angeles in 1976. And he mentions that the Vishnu Tattvas they're all the personal expansions. So all the personal expansions of Krishna, they are known as Vishnu Tattvas. But we living entities, we are separated expansions. So there's a huge difference between Vishnu Tattva and the Jiva Tattva. The Vishnu Tattva is considered to be almost equal to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Now, in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, verse 7, we have we have read in the purport, Srila Prabhupada, he says that Krishna expands in many forms. The primary expansions are called Vishnu Tattvas, and the secondary expansions are we living entities. Now, in the purport also we read that the essence of the statements of everything is that in the Puranas and the Vedas. So once we, try to understand the Vedic scriptures, especially the essence of the Vedas, which is Srimad Bhagavatam, and of course, the Bhagavad Gita and Chaitanya Charitamrita, then we will get the complete overview. We will be able to, if we scrutinizingly study these scriptures, Srila Prabhupada said, then there's nothing more to be known. It'll be like complete package, the whole knowledge that we require. And Srila Prabhupada also mentions that there is no difference between the teachings of Bhagavad Gita or Chaitanya Charitamrita. And we see, there is a lot of repetition. Just like in Bhagavad Gita, almost every chapter we, hear about basically same knowledge. So in Chaitanya Charitamrita also, we got references in these 3 verses from Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto. So it is all, you can see whatever we learn in Bhagavad Gita, in Srimad Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita, it's complete knowledge. Now, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he came here more than 500 years ago, he actually gave a practical demonstration of Krishna's teachings in Bhagavad Gita. He's Krishna himself. So whatever he spoke 5,000 years ago, re-spoke 5,000 years ago, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he came to give a practical demonstration. Now we see the ultimate instruction in Bhagavad Gita is surrender. Krishna demands surrender. So then, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came and he showed us how. Because surrender is a very heavy word and it's a scary word too. People get scared. Oh, surrender. That means, where is my independence? Where's that minute independence that I have? All that will be lost. I will be totally in control of the Lord, which I don't know if I'm ready to do that. So surrender is a very heavy word. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came and he showed us a very simple process of surrender. And, when we follow that instruction of surrender, then Srila Prabhupada says, Krishna will take immediate direct charge of our lives. Now that is also a scary thought. How can we give charge of our lives to someone else? That is scary. So, but Srila Prabhupada, he's so kind and so compassionate. He, gave a very simple process, just chant and follow 4 regulative principles, and you can go back to Godhead. Simple. And that is surrender. Because once we start chanting with attention, attentive chanting, and we strictly follow the four regulative principles, then our way back to Godhead becomes very, very clear. It becomes very direct. It becomes very, you can say, it's conformed. That is what Srila Prabhupada says. So when Srila Prabhupada says Krishna will take direct charge of our lives, which means he will maintain us. That is what Krishna does with the pure devotees. He maintains them. Why? Because they are completely surrendered, like a child is surrendered to the mother, or like an animal is surrendered to the master. You see, when we have seen, so many dog lovers who have dogs, we can see how surrendered the dog is to the master. Say, sit, the dog will sit. Fetch, the dog will go fetch. If someone tells us to sit, we'll be like, excuse me? I will sit when I want to sit. Who are you to tell me when to sit, or go get me some glass of water. Oh, you go get it yourself, So, but here, the surrender that is talked about is like the child to the mother, completely surrendered. So now, since we're talking so much about surrender, it's important to know, what do we need to do to be surrendered? And there are 6 aspects to that. Rupa Goswami has explained. Accept whatever is favorable to devotional service, whatever, and reject whatever is unfavorable to devotional service. Thirdly, believe firmly in Krishna's protection. Not that there shouldn't be an iota of doubt, not even 0.1% of doubt that I'm not sure, is Krishna going to protect me or not protect me? Maybe in this situation he'll protect me, and maybe in that he won't. No. Believe firmly in Krishna's protection. Next, feel exclusively dependent on his mercy. Exclusively, just like in, normal language, we say, Tom, Dick, and Harry. Don't just, that's just a phrase. Similarly, we can say, oh, maybe, I can depend on this one, that one, and that one, and that. No. Krishna says exclusively dependent on his mercy. How do we get his mercy? It's very simple. Srila Prabhupada says, as soon as we surrender to Guru and Krishna, which means follow their instructions, and then when the spiritual master is pleased, Krishna is automatically pleased, and automatically we receive the mercy. So feel exclusively dependent on Krishna's mercy. Next, there should be no interest separate from Krishna. The only interest is Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Finally, feel oneself meek and humble. Humility. Srila Prabhupada talks about this in the Bhagavad Gita and the purport. What is humility? One should not be anxious to get the satisfaction of being honored by others. Craving, let someone respect me, offer me respect, recognize me, appreciate me, praise me. This is the opposite of humility. So we see in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, he demands surrender. But if we just follow these 6 guidelines, then we will be able to easily surrender to Krishna. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is teaching us how to worship Krishna directly, not indirectly, just directly. And he also taught us that the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra that we chant on a daily basis, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, that is the sound incarnation of Krishna. No difference between Krishna, his holy name, his form, his pastimes, No difference. So his holy name is also Krishna. So when we are chanting, we need to be conscious of the fact that we are associating with Krishna. Krishna is directly present while we are chanting because we are calling out his holy name. And chanting, very, very important. Srila Prabhupada says that is the foundation of our spiritual lives. And chanting, we can see, goes through 3 stages. We start off with Namaprad, where it's like offensive chanting. We are committing offenses while chanting. But when we continue chanting, then gradually we come to, the next stage. But in the Namaprad stage, we have desires for material happiness. I want this and I want that, and I want to enjoy this and that. So that is Namaprad stage. But when we come to the clearing stage, which is called Namabhas, right? So when the devotee starts making conscious effort to not commit any offenses, no more aparadh, no more on the stage of Namaprad, but starts chanting with the consciousness that I want to improve my chanting, then comes to a stage of Namabhas, which is the clearing stage. What exactly does that mean, clearing stage? That means clearing oneself of material contamination. When the devotee is really firmly fixed, or is very focused in the clearing stage, that yes, I really want to come to the stage of pure chanting, Shuddhanam, pure chanting. Then gradually the devotee can reach that stage. And at that stage, Srila Prabhupada says, one is able to love Krishna. In the other 2 stages, Namaprad and Namabhas, the desire is there to love Krishna. But in Shuddhanam, pure chanting, one develops love for Krishna. Such a beautiful way, it is described. It gives us, the process, how, if we want to reach that stage of pure chanting. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, loving Krishna is the highest stage of perfection. And important point is that only human beings can reach that stage. We cannot invite cats and dogs and, the animals and birds and, and explain the Bhagavad Gita or Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita and teach them how to chant. I've heard some parrots, chanting Hare Krishna, but that's about it. It's not possible for them to develop love for Krishna, but for human beings, it is possible. So you see, we are so very fortunate that we have this rare human form of life, and more fortunate that we are in Srila Prabhupada's mission. We are part of this Krishna consciousness movement. So we are very, very fortunate. I always keep, talking about this fact that yes, right now we are fortunate that, we are hearing Chaitanya Charitamrita. But what if we are not successful at the end of this life, if we are not able to go back to Godhead, what will be the next birth? No idea. Will we remember Krishna at the time of death? What will we think of at the time of death, right? Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam. Whatever we are thinking at the time of death, to that stage we'll attain without fail. There's no doubt about it. So, even if we are fortunate enough to get a human form, is there a guarantee that we will come across a devotee? Even if you're fortunate to come across a devotee, even if we are fortunate enough to get a Bhagavad Gita or someone explains Krishna consciousness to us, will we take it up? That possibility is there. Like we approach so many people, requesting them to attend classes, to read Bhagavad Gita, but not everybody is interested. They say, oh, maybe when I get old, I might think about it, or maybe, so there is no guarantee. But right now, we have this facility, this opportunity, this great fortune that we are in Krishna consciousness. So we should take it up 100%. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, look at Krishna, so very kind. He came down in Kali Yuga to teach us the science of Krishna consciousness, which is absolute. Now, what does, we are talking so much about Krishna consciousness. What does it actually mean? It means engaging our mind, our senses in devotional service to Krishna. And guess what? No previous qualification is necessary. It's not that we have to be a PhD or a doctor or an engineer or post. No, nothing at all. No qualification. Only thing required is that we sincerely follow this path of Krishna consciousness, follow the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and gradually become perfect, come to that perfect stage of Krishna consciousness. You see, this process that Srila Prabhupada has given us, it can give us relief from Maya. Prabhupada said to his disciples that some of you are not really afraid of Maya. That is our situation, at least I'm talking about myself. Not conscious of the fact that Maya can strike at any moment. She's waiting to see that, we are kind of distracted in some way or the other, and boom, she's there to attack us. So if we become interested in Krishna consciousness, then we can get relief from Maya. And that is possible when we get the mercy of Guru and Krishna. You see, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he came, he taught us how we can focus on Krishna and stop the unnecessary and temporary activities. Why? So that we can, gradually elevate ourselves to the topmost platform, which is perfection of Krishna consciousness. And how kind Krishna is. He came down not as God, the Supreme Lord, but as a devotee. He did all the hard work to show us, set an example. You see, it's not hard work for him, but if we look from our perspective, there was no need for him to come as a devotee and chant all the time his own holy name, and be completely absorbed in his own self, himself. There was no need, but he wanted to show us how to be a devotee, teaching us how to become Krishna conscious. And Srila Prabhupada says Krishna consciousness means using common sense. You see, we do have common sense. What is it for? To use. There's a very nice story that there was this gentleman. He was on top of a tree and he was trying to cut a branch, with a saw or whatever. He was trying to cut a branch, but unfortunately, he was sitting on that branch that he was cutting, you see. So there was a man passing by. He looked up and he said, "Excuse me, sir, you will fall down," because he was sitting on the branch that he was cutting. So once the branch is cut, naturally he will fall down. He said, okay. He didn't bother about it. So this man, said, okay, it was my duty to inform you. So then when he cut the branch and he fell down, obviously, and then he told the man, "Are you an astrologer? Did you already know that I'm going to fall?" No, it's common sense. You're sitting on a branch that you're cutting, so naturally you're going to fall down. There's no astrology involved in this. It's common sense. So we have got that common sense. Srila Prabhupada has given us simple process that if we follow Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his mission, our life will be successful. Now, $1 million question is, living in this polluted material world, how to remain unpolluted, right? There's pollution everywhere. I'm not talking about pollution from, the cars, or pollution from, no, pollution of the mind. There's so much going on into our heads every day. I don't know how many devotees, they are watching TV or listening to radio or, watching news or whatever. All that is going into our consciousness. That's pollution. How to remain unpolluted? Rupa Goswami says, just focus on serving Krishna. And the best and the first step of serving Krishna is chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra attentively. Another way to focus on serving Krishna is to work for him. Use everything that we have, whether it is money, talent, family, our speech, our body, our mind, our senses, our energy, our resources. Everything can be used in Krishna's service. So when we start doing that, then what will happen? Not only our focus will be on Krishna, but gradually we will also start elevating ourselves to that perfect stage of Krishna consciousness. We have been reading, Srimad Bhagavatam in these classes every morning and Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not talk about Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Hatha Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga. No. All he talked about was Bhakti Yoga, which is devotional service to Krishna. So that is the best way that we can elevate ourselves in Krishna consciousness. It's not rocket science. What attracted me to Krishna consciousness was that I didn't need to have a very elevated material degree. Like I didn't have to be highly educated, which I'm not, or I didn't need to, be like a Sanskrit scholar, like have to know Sanskrit or no. In India, we call it tamjham, nothing. Yeah, nothing was necessary. All that was needed was a simple heart, dedication, devotion to Krishna, just following the instructions of Guru and Krishna. That's it. Nothing else is needed. As soon as the disciple surrenders to the Guru, which means starts following the instructions of the Guru, that devotee, that disciple is in a very safe environment, is very protected. That is how a disciple can get protection from Guru and Krishna, their mercy. So devotional service is not that difficult. All that one requires is sincerity and seriousness. These two ingredients are very important in Krishna consciousness and devotional service. So I'll read the verse number 39 once again. In the Dwapar Yuga, the personality of Godhead appears in a blackish hue. He is dressed in yellow, he holds his own weapons, and he is decorated with the Kaustuba jewel and marks of Srivatsa. This is how his symptoms are described. I'll stop here. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Mother Gita, for such a wonderful class. Really, really sweet. And at one point that really gave me chills down my spine is when you said, what if we don't make it this life, we come back next life, then what happened? I was like, oh, Krishna. That's the scary part, Mother. That is, for me especially, because I'm, Not at all elevated. I'm very, very fallen. Still trying to understand is like, what is the guarantee? And because we don't know the guarantee, then what are the chances of getting the mercy? It's like so scary, mother. Yeah, that I have to admit that that goes through my mind frequently. It really does.
Which is a good thing. It should, because if it doesn't, then we won't even worry about it, and
Yeah.
do anything about it. So, yes.
Yeah, it goes through your mind because I don't know, because I was always told by my spiritual master, when we celebrate our birthdays, we it's like 1 year closer to death, like 1 year. And I was like, oh God, it's like so scary. I said, will I get the mercy? And if I don't, okay, then what's gonna happen next life? And like, oh my God, will I get my spiritual master? Like all those thoughts go to mind, and then I get also like so like frantic. I'm like, oh Krishna Chaitanya. But thank you for such a wonderful class, mother. Would like to ask devotees if any questions, any clarification, comment, or you would like to share your feedback or takeaway, please do unmute yourself and share your thoughts. Mother, you were speaking about consciousness, and we've heard that in order to be Krishna conscious, we have to be conscious. And sometimes that term seems to be very broad and vague at the same time. How can we develop the mood of conscious of our service?
Yes, very nice question. What I have heard is that to be conscious, that effort has to be there. It's not automatic. It's not that, okay, today morning I'm going to chant my 16 rounds and I'll automatically become Krishna conscious. No, we have to make that effort, which means remind ourselves over and over again, okay, I'm starting to chant now. This is my time with Krishna every morning. And I have to make every effort possible to chant attentively. So being conscious, which means we have to be alert. It's not Krishna consciousness, Srila Prabhupada says, it's not by the way, or it is, we shouldn't think that we are in a clubhouse, like, okay, I'm already, initiated, so I don't have to worry. No, we have to make that effort and remind ourselves. And what helps is association of devotees. So like when I am chanting, my husband is listening, so he can remind me, okay, maybe you should chant a little louder so you can hear, or some correction or whatever may be necessary. So association helps, but we have to make our own efforts, sincere efforts, to be alert and to be conscious, to be conscious. You understand what I'm trying to say? We have to make that effort. It's not automatic. It's not automatic. We have to make that effort. So, which means we should plan the day, that this is my time with Krishna. This is a time of Mangal Arati, and after that it's my chanting, my Krishna time, as I call it, time with Krishna. So I have to be fully focused. So Prabhupada says, when our chanting becomes attentive, everything falls in place. Everything falls in place, because that is the basic foundation of Krishna consciousness. So when the chanting is attentive, then the mind is always conscious of Krishna. Now you must have noticed, say early in the morning, you wake up and you listen to some Bollywood music, some song you listen to. It'll run in your head all day. Even though you may be working, going to office, cooking, doing anything, but in the background, subconsciously, that music is playing. I don't know if you all have noticed that, that is natural. It happens.
It goes in the subconscious mind, and we're not even, oh mother, yes, and we're not even aware. And then like I find myself going to that when I'm in the grocery store, some store, they play this, whatever they play in that music in the store, and you're not aware of it. And when you're going to the next store, you say, wait, why am I humming this song? Where did it come from?
Exactly. So when the chanting is attentive in the morning, it'll be there subconsciously. And that will help us to remain conscious of Krishna all the time. So that's very, very important. I hope that helps.
Yes, mother, it really does, because I think that's a challenge that I'm currently experiencing, like how can we really help devotees to really be conscious of their service, and yeah, like be aware or be ahead rather than just not being aware and saying, okay, whatever, so I'm really appreciating that answer. Thank you so much, mother. It's my ongoing challenge. Thank you. Any questions from devotees? Yes, Srinivas Prabhu, go ahead.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you very much for the class. I have one question. You mentioned that when there is a slight slack of alertness, the Maya will strike, right? Why should Maya strike us when we are not alert?
Very good question. Srila Prabhupada says Maya will strike those who are trying to be Krishna conscious, because others are already in Maya. She doesn't have to worry about them because they're already in Maya. But those who are trying to become pure or trying to become a pure devotee, trying to go back to Krishna, then it is Maya's job to test us. That is the reason she strikes, to see that when she strikes, are we still Krishna conscious? Or have we given up Krishna consciousness? Have we fallen completely into Maya? So it's her duty to test us so that, so that we are qualified to go back to Godhead. Are we tolerant? Are we patient? Are we merciful? Are we compassionate? So that's the reason she strikes. Also to help us to strive harder for Krishna consciousness. Does that help?
Thank you very much, Mataji. Now I understand why it is striking very hard on us.
Otherwise,
Thank
it
you.
becomes slack.
It feels like the rod is hot, right, Prabhu? The iron rod.
Yes.
Exactly.
It's always striking. And that's a very nice question, because sometimes I've come across, we're trying and then we feel like we're pushing forward, but the force, the strong forces are pushing against us, and we've got to push forward, and it's pushing against us. It's like a tug of war. Really like a
Exactly.
tug of war.
It reminds me of, when you are shooting an arrow, you have to push it back a lot for it to go further forward, right? You have to keep pushing it back, 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 back. And then when you leave it, it goes and hits the target. So
Exactly.
I
Thank
guess
you,
that's
Mataji.
what Maya is doing. I don't know.
That's a really nice example, analogy, mother. Yeah, that's a beautiful analogy. Thank you for actually sharing that. Makes me really change how we look at struggles in life, we gotta pull it all the way up and yeah, that was good. Thank you, mother. And as soon as you said, I was thinking of the pastime of Arjuna. Pulling it back. That was a nice one. Thank you, mother. Very nice. Any other questions from devotees? Any thoughts, any clarifications? It's such a beautiful class, and especially the point of surrender. Mother, and you're so right. Just when people hear the word surrender, they think of, oh, now I'm going to be servant. It's such a negative connotation, because everybody wants to be the controller. Everybody wants to be the master. Nobody wants to be the servant, and because, mother, and you also mentioned that Kali Yuga is just getting worse and worse, and the concept of surrender and surrendering is becoming more and more scary negatively. So how can we view it positively, mother?
I'll have to think about this. It's a very powerful question.
Because I come across that situation sometimes with some devotees, and there was one person that actually, she's been coming. She doesn't come anymore, but she used to come to Gita Nagari so I think since 2004. And then she was aspiring for one of our spiritual masters, and then she couldn't, and then she left. And then she went back to her Buddhist, practices, and again she came back, and then she moved to Florida, was aspiring for another spiritual master. I think he was Mahatma. First was Ravindra Prabhu, then he was Mahatma Prabhu, then he was Ramapada Swami, and finally she left back to Buddhist like 3-4 times. And she said and her challenge is, I just cannot surrender and have someone tell me what to do. And I'm saying to myself, but we live in a material world where we are always being told what to do. Like you would always give the example of the cop sitting next to us in the driving the car, and we're always being told what to do, whether when are driving or whatever. So I'm just trying to understand, Mother, like we are living in a world where we are bounded by rules, material laws. So why is it so difficult, or what is why is that challenge there? And it's for me to also understand for myself too, Mother, because we live in a world where we are bounded by material laws. Why is it so difficult for us to surrender to spiritual laws?
Yes, Srila Prabhupada, he explains very nicely that people do not understand that their position is eternal servant of Krishna, right? Jivera Swaruphoy Krishnara Nitya Das, we are eternal servants. They don't realize that they are a servant themselves, even if they are not Krishna conscious, because they are serving the body, they are serving the spouse, they are serving the children, they're serving the boss in the office, they're serving their relatives, their parents. So they are a servant anyway, right? It's just for their personal satisfaction. They think I'm the master, but they are servants. They are serving, how much do we serve the body when it is unhealthy, when there is some medical issue? We are servants. So yes, people do have a problem with this word servant or service, is due to false ego. Now this devotee that you talked about, not wanting to surrender is just false ego, that, oh, I don't need anyone to surrender to, you see. And false ego is what, kind of drowns us in this material world. And it has nothing to do that, oh, I don't like this master or I don't like that spiritual master. No, it's a personal problem, false ego. And false ego, Srila Prabhupada says, means I am this body. We are identifying with the body. Real ego means I am the spirit soul. So as long as this false ego, that means if a person has not transcended from this bodily concept of life, is only thinking about the body, I, me, and mine, then that means the false ego is still there. You have to. That's the basic knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. I am not this body. You see? So again, it comes back to the same point. If the chanting is attentive, then there is realization. By mercy of Krishna. What does Krishna say? Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam. Dadami buddhi. He gives that intelligence so we can understand who we really are. But he wants priti purvakam. He wants us to worship him with love and devotion. Now, worship means service. We have to serve him. And the best form of service is chanting attentively. Then the realization will come. Otherwise, we'll be just going round and round in circles. I want to be doing this, now I want to do that, and then and this. We'll be, Prabhupada says, jumping like monkeys, going nowhere. So it's a false ego.
Yes, yes, Mother, false. Yeah, and it's funny. And as you were speaking of, and when I was telling you about this devotee, she didn't want to surrender, but at the same time, she's serving her husband who doesn't want her to join. So it's false, exactly, it's false ego.
But she won't consider that as service.
Exactly. It's the false ego. It's the false ego. And that is the toughest one, I think, to really crack. Because it's so subtle that we're not even aware of it. It's so subtle, but yet so big. Such a big issue Thank you, Mother. That was a really, yes, false ego. That was nice. I really appreciated it. Thank you. Any other questions from devotees? Yes, Krishna Shashanam Prabhu, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandvat Pranams. Beautiful lecture, lot of information, lot of devotional service. But I have, a simple question. Of course, I heard many, many times. Chanting is the service. How is the chanting when we chant ourselves? It becomes a service to Krishna. I could see when you mean services, you do service in the temple, wash the dishes, decorate the deities and everything. That is kind of service. But chanting, how is that becomes a service to Krishna, Mataji?
Whoa. A very, very powerful question. I never thought about this, how chanting can be a service. Can Parikshit Prabhu help or Anasuya Mataji?
My husband is there. I'm going to see if he can come. Yes, he's there.
So,
Humble obeisances, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Yes, it is a very powerful question. For a number of reasons, chanting is important and it's a service. The examples that you mentioned, doing things in the temple, basically using your hands, your legs, and all of those. So those are part of your senses that you use to do the service. So when you use your mouth, your tongue, and ears, is also another part of the senses that you're using. When we're serving with our senses. So when you're chanting, you're also serving with your senses. It's just a different kind of sense. When you're, washing the dishes for the Lord, so you're using your hands. When you're chanting, you're using your tongue. So different services are there. So you can look at it, service as a way to use the senses to connect with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So chanting is also one of those where we use the sense of hearing and also the sense of speaking. Now, the other thing is, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is the Yugat Haram. It's from the spiritual world. And so the other part of it is not so much that service is important, but obedience to the service is also important. We have been given this mantra from the spiritual world. This is how you go back in Kali Yuga. Therefore, it's a duty to chant, just like it's a duty to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Just like it was Arjuna's duty to fight. So if you look at it from the point of view of duty also, then chanting becomes a duty that we have to do. Service is duty. So chanting is duty, serving with your other limbs and so on, with your limbs, that's also duty. So if you look at it from the point of view of using our senses, the senses as being used in service, then chanting is using a couple of our senses, especially the sense of hearing, the sense of speaking, that tongue, in service. And as we just talked about, that it is a duty to do service as duty also. Then chanting also is in that category. It's our duty to chant and serve. Hare Krishna.
beautiful. Thank you so much for a powerful answer. I never thought about that. Thank you.
Krishna's mercy. Believe me, it was coming and I was speaking. It was just a mouthpiece. Hare Krishna. Hare
Yeah.
Krishna.
Thank you for that. Yes, in fact, when he was speaking too, I remember I've heard devotees, gurus, and even my spiritual masters saying that when we're chanting, we're asking the Lord to engage us in service. So, that's a service because we are chanting, asking for service. So it's actual service. So thank you for sharing the very wonderful explanation. Very, very nice. Any other questions from devotees? Any wonderful, lovely topic. Nice questions, powerful. This morning we've got some really deep questions. So that was really nice. And it's so nice, I think, Mother, for me at least, when we get this really deep questions, the answers, it really makes us go even deeper in our Krishna consciousness and really, go deep and evaluate and really go deep. Yes, Srinivas Prabhu, please go ahead.
I'm just thinking, from my mind, Now, sometimes, our parents are in India and abroad, right? Sometimes we cannot do any physical service or personal service. Sometimes when I talk to my mom, she says, "It's enough you just talk to me," right? I'm just thinking of chanting. It's also like, talking to the, Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? Sometimes, that can also be considered as a service, though my mom considers me talking to her every day as a service to her, making her happy. I'm just thinking in that way, on listening to Parikshit Prabhu's, response.
Yeah, good point.
That's a really good point. It's funny, Prabhu, as you're speaking about that, I was remembering a few years ago when my daughter used to go for dance classes, classical dance, and whenever they had their annual recital, I was always I was always put to help in the backstage. And one time, my god sisters, came for my daughter's performance, and I was on the backstage, and then at the end, I visited and I came to greet them. And she told me, and she's my most senior god sister, and she said to me, "Anasuya, it's so nice that you're doing service." I said, "Huh?" I said, "But it's a dance concert." Like, I know, she said, goes, "No, but you are serving the people, even though they may not be, Krishna conscious devotees, but you're serving them by your time. So you're doing something." I was like, I never thought of it that way. So because you're doing it out of your time, out of your free will. It's not like you're being paid for it. So you are giving your time in service. I said, oh, so that really changed my consciousness. And this, I think like 7-8 years ago, very recent, I was like, wow, I never thought of it that way, actually. So that also helped. She helped me change my consciousness. Like what, yes, go ahead, Parikshit.
Hare Krishna. So another point that came to mind that you're having discussion in answer to the same question. When we chant out loud, there are other living entities that are near us. They also have souls, and they benefit from the vibration of the Hare Krishna mantra. So when you chant and they hear, you literally are serving them too. That's also another point that I have to do. Hare Krishna.
Very nice. So you see association, we start churning.
Yes, mother. Love it. That was really nice. Yes, the living entity, the little bugs, the bird, the leaf, the trees. Yeah, absolutely. That's a nice point. Thank you for that nice reminder.
You remember one time when my spiritual master was in Atlanta, he was giving a Bhagavatam class in the temple, and all of a sudden he stopped because there was a bug on his thigh, and so he stopped and he went close and he said Hare Krishna to that bug. That's service.
Oh my gosh.
That's service. Helping that bug, probably get a human form in the next life. So that's service.
That is completely, these are the pure devotees who see the Lord in every and any way. Amazing.
I remember one time I was a secretary and I was, taking down dictation. He was dictating, and then he got a phone call. And so I started chanting and I noticed that there was a bug on my thigh. And I was very afraid and I didn't know what to do. I couldn't move or do anything. And he stopped his phone call and he told me that you take a paper, put the bug on the paper and go and put it on the plant so that the bug gets some food to eat and chant Hare Krishna. Whereas if we were not Krishna conscious, what would we do? Just let the bug go wherever, just off from me, kind of.
That is so true, mother. That is so true. Amazing. We are so fortunate that we get so much, instructions and guidance on our Krishna consciousness. That's so nice. Thank you for the wonderful pastimes, mother. Very nice. Any other questions before we end this? Yes, Krishna Shanaplo, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you, Prabhuji, for beautiful questions, beautiful answers. No, we got so many points out of that question. Thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
again for the explanation. Hare Krishna.
Yes, I
Yes,
also
Prabhu.
learned a lot. I learned a lot. Thank you.
Yes, very nice. It was very nice. And like you said, Mother, when we come together and we discuss, we churn and we get more nectar, you know, as we're churning. So thank you for that question, and thank you for all the answers and realization. It was very powerful. Any other questions before we end, just to make sure that I don't miss anyone? And if there isn't, we thank you all for joining us, and thank you for a wonderful class, Mother. Vanchaka pribhyascha kripasindhubevacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Have a wonderful day, devotees. Hari Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Hare Bol. Thank you
Hare
very much.
Krishna.
Thank you, Mother Gita, for such a nice class. Hare Krishna.
Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna.